So we said in this training program, we'll start with the understanding of data entry. And with data entry, I'm going to break down into two. And I said, depending with the source of data, we will start with looking at primary sources. And with primary sources, this is where we know very well we'll be looking at data that are collected directly from a respondent. You have a session with someone who's giving you those data. And of course, if you're going somewhere, if you're interacting with someone or you're trying to get information from someone, there are instruments or tools that you will use to collect that data. And this is where we'll talk about things like questionnaires. We have KII. KIG is just Key Informant Interview Guide. Those are some of the tools that you'll use. So of course, for KII, this is where you're conducting an interview. So when you're about to do your interview, you'll have to come up with questions that you intend to ask your respondent in the interview. And those questions, you will store them in a tool called Key Informant Interview Guide. We also have what we call FGD. Still one of the tools that I use for collection of primary data. FGD is focus group discussion. And with the focus group discussion, this is where you have a group of individuals or participants whereby you are meeting with them within a period of time, not just once, but you're having a discussion session with them. After FGD, we also have what we call observation checklist. Observation checklist. And with an observation checklist, this is where, as a researcher, you walk around and observe. And if an item of interest exists, all you have to do in your checklist is just to check, confirming that a certain item exists. We call that observation checklist. So of course, despite that we have all these tools that are used in collection of primary data, we'll be focusing more with a questionnaire in this program, whereby we will be interacting with questions. You see, how do you start by coding questions into your software? And later, how will you make sense out of the data? That is the primary sources. The next one, we will jump into secondary sources. And with secondary sources, this is where, for instance, you go into websites or you're dealing with data sets that are archived or stored somewhere. If you go to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics website, you will find that there are information which are stored there. If you go to IMF, World Bank, of course, you'll be able to have data. So if you download those data and then you go ahead and analyze, you realize that you're analyzing data set that you don't even know who was the respondent. So we'll also have a chance to see how do you go about dealing with the secondary data. So majorly, we'll be talking about importing Excel file into SPSS. And with the Excel file, you can either talk of CSV, we have XLS, and also have XLSX. Apart from the Excel files that I've just written there, at this stage, you will be in a better position to handle any data entry exercises. Of course, with this type of data is whereby data was collected using traditional means. That means maybe a questionnaire was printed and then given out. I know some of you are here and you're still learning what you call qualitative analysis. Of course, you'll understand that in qualitative analysis, you'll learn how to work with electronic platform. So even for those who are here and maybe they have not enrolled for that class, it's also a good chance for you to do that. Okay. Now, after data entry, I will now go to data management. After data entry, we will jump into data management. And the main thing we're going to learn here is to prepare our data before we now perform some actual analysis. As you can see, or you can understand that during entry, people make mistakes. It's all about speed. How fast can you enter data? So at this stage, we'll be able to fix information or those information that were not correctly entered. And also for those that were correctly entered, we will try and see how to prepare that file before we run some actual analysis. Some of the things that you're going to learn under data management, we'll look at the concept of record. We'll also look at the concept like select. So we have something like record, select, those are just two. So we have, I've said record, and then we have select, we have split, we'll talk about compute, we'll also mention something to do with pivot tables. So these are some of the things that we'll cover under data management. And then lastly, after we manage our data, we will now jump into data analysis. And with data analysis, one, I'll be talking about descriptive analysis, and a descriptive analysis, this is where you're just describing your data. Again, by describing your data, we'll have to understand the structure of our data, whereby we have continuous data, and we'll be doing things like extraction of frequency, I will also be talking about continuous data. We'll be talking about measures of central tendency, measures of central tendency, and then categorical. This is where we'll be extracting frequencies. So we'll be interacting a lot here, and majorly again, we'll try as much as possible to understand the language. How do you communicate this data? How do you make sense out of the data? After that, I will now jump into inferential analysis. And with inferential analysis, this is where I will talk of checking relationship. You're no longer just describing the distribution, but you want to come up with evidence supporting whether a certain data are related or they are not related. And with inferential analysis, we'll be following some steps. There are some steps that we'll follow. One, we will start by identifying the test statistics. We're able to identify test statistics. Among the test statistics that you're going to identify, one of them is chi-square. We'll be doing correlation. We'll also be doing t-tests. And lastly, we'll also perform regression. So in this stage, whereby we say identifying test statistics, we will have to justify the reason as to why we'll be performing all these tests. There's always a reason behind any analysis, and in this case, we'll have a chance to learn. When do you do regression? When do you do chi-square? When do you do correlation? And also when do you do t-test? After identifying test statistics, we will also have a discussion on how to formulate hypothesis. So we'll have a rule on formulation of hypothesis. And with hypothesis, this is where we'll talk about the null hypothesis. When do you formulate null hypothesis, and how should the null hypothesis be? After null hypothesis, you'll also have alternative hypothesis. So of course, you'll be dealing with the two. You formulate the null and also the alternative. The third stage, we'll talk about confidence level. So you have to come up with confidence level. And here you say, to what confidence level are you doing your study? And also we need to understand what it means by confidence level. After confidence level, we'll also talk about the fourth stage, which is now we call it decision making. So majorly, decision making here is whereby we will be learning on settling on either the null hypothesis or when to reject. So there are two things. Either we will settle for the null hypothesis or we will reject the null hypothesis. We will reject the null hypothesis or we settle for the alternative. We will understand how to go about that. After we make our decision, we will go to the final stage, which is now conclusion. So based on what you settle for, you will now conclude your work. Now, up to this stage, you will be able to understand how data is collected. how to manage that data, and also how to analyze. I think some people are still struggling to access class. What do we have here? Just a minute, I add some of you. Good. So up to that stage, our objective again will be to understand the process of data. But here again, we have just reminded ourselves on what? On the theoretical setup and the foundation of statistics. We will jump now from SPSS and then we go to Stata. And in Stata, we'll be doing more or less the same thing, but this time much more focus will be on writing commands. And then we finalize with Excel. Now, today being our first class, I want to make sure that we are all set for our classes, because our classes will be now on Mondays and Tuesday. Up to now, you should be in a position to understand how to access these classes, which means the same link whereby you have obtained, the same mail that you have obtained the link for today's class. That is where you'll always be going to get the link to access the class. There's a material that I'm going to share, of which I know most of you already have it. If you go to that folder called Download Training Material, and then you open SPSS, you will see a lot of materials. So we'll be using questionnaires and also data sets that are there. So make sure you have all these. And in case you don't have, feel free to communicate to the office prior. For those who don't have the software installed, I know majority of you have not been installed the software. Kindly, tomorrow morning from 9 a.m., I will personally be installing those software. I insist, tomorrow morning from 9 a.m., I will be installing the software. So make sure you send to us the AnyDesk number, and I'll be able to help you with that. Let me take any question or concern about the classes before now we say we are good to proceed with our classes. Now the floor is ours. Any question or anything that you think I should clarify? Yes, Malika, I think you want to say something.
I want to say about the advanced Excel.
Yes.
How can we install an advanced Excel since I have installed Stata and SPSS?
So for advanced Excel, we will just use the same Excel that you already have it, but the concept that you're going to learn is the one we refer as advanced Excel. So we're just using the normal Microsoft Excel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other person?
You talked of a folder with some SPSS notes or where do you get folders?
Kennedy, your volume is not that okay. Maybe, I don't know if it's Kennedy or Moses, one of you. Maybe you want to raise the hand, raise your hand so that I know who to select.
Moses, you getting me? Moses, you're getting me.
Yes, Moses, I can get you, but your volume is
Okay, I'm asking.
yes.
You talked of some folders with SPSS resources. Where can I get the folders?
I think in your case we didn't download for you, so I should be sending those files. Actually, I will attach them to the class link. So it will be one of the attachment in the link for accessing this class.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Any other person?
Hello, Ian. This is Kennedy.
Yes, Kennedy.
Actually, I got SPSS and Advanced Excel installed for me. I think by you.
Yes.
Yeah, but for starter, it was not installed.
For stated, it was not installed.
Yes, I don't know whether I should join you at 9.
Yes, so we can do that also tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other thing concerning classes? Today is the only day we are doing this. From tomorrow, I will assume we are all okay. So it's just marathon. We'll be doing some serious business.
And just clarify, the classes is 1 hour?
So we're doing a class from 8 to 9.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Harrison, are you now okay with accessing classes? I can see you came to my class just now.
Yes, someone just sent me the link now.
Yes.
So I'm okay. I'm okay. You have the topics.
Yes, so I've just taken guys through what we are going to cover, what is presented on the screen at the moment.
Okay.
And also this session is recorded, so I'll be able to share with you so that you also listen to what we have been talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then just to clarify again, the link to access the class, we are not going to share like before. So as we speak, you already have a calendar which is working. So all you have to do is go to your email, the same email that you have accessed today. That is where you'll be receiving your link every time you have a class. Okay, so if there's no any other question, today I want to wish you a good night, and tomorrow our class starts at exactly 8 p.m. And I would say don't come past 8:10. That means you should be settled at 8, at least 10 minutes to for us to settle. And then once we start now our class at 8:10, you will be able now to get the concept. So if you come late, you might not understand what we would have done. That's now where you'll start. Maybe that will be the beginning of you not understanding. So let's commit to the class. We just have two days in a week. I think that is enough for you to sacrifice, unless you are doing both quantitative and qualitative. So guys, have a good night, and let's meet tomorrow. Okay. Yes, Malicho. Malicha?
Talks about
Yes.
how about when I will start both class, both qualitative and quantitative.
Yes, so it means Monday and Tuesday you'll be doing quantitative, and then Wednesday and Thursday you'll be doing qualitative.
Yes.
So you are good to go. You still have it. You can. It doesn't interfere with your training, so you can do both of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good night, guys.